Hey Sergey, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Adam. Thanks for inviting me.
What was your first computer?
Well, my first computer was probably Mainframe in the university,
Oh,
and I have to admit I have a vague recollection of big screens and without anything else.
so what you did with the computer then? And this is quite late at the university.
Well, it was we did some project work in the universities and that was it really, like, and some basic development. Yeah, like
Okay.
we really didn't have laptops at the time, when I was studying in the university.
Okay. What is your first programming language you started?
So it was C, I would say. So yeah, C, like basic. I didn't really try it a lot. C,
Okay.
C.
So you learned C first, and then you tried to translate it on mainframe, or what was the idea?
No, there was no really translation to the. There was no idea to translate to mainframe. It was like we were asked to do our project work on mainframes, right? So like,
Okay.
and as far as like there was this Kernighan and Ricci C book, right? It was
hmm
really fascinating, and yeah, that's what would be my first book.
So, but how you got the idea to start programming? So you just got the book and read it, or I mean, or
Well,
how you learned without computer?
you just read it and just try to implement program on the paper.
Wow.
It was how I got inspired, really.
Yeah, this is incredible. And how you knew that the book is something special?
I just probably talked to my friends at the time, and I started reading this, and it was just capturing, and there were some simple programming tasks like find the number of characters in a string, things like this, and I don't remember all the specifics, but concatenate multiple strings and implement it in C, and you just write it on the paper and
And
try
you
to
could
make it
imagine
live.
what happens just without computer and just having paper and the book?
Well, yes, I was hoping that I was making it right, yeah. And then I recall we were sitting in school with my friend, and so where should we go to study? And let's go to computers. Well, let's do it. And that was the decision made.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a planning like 2 years ahead I will be programming or anything like that. It was really pretty spontaneous.
So you were inspired by your friends. So they were developers or
Well,
hackers or whatever, and you got the book.
I got the book. I don't recall exactly who, whose idea was it for me to get that book, but eventually with another friend of mine, we decided we talked about computers and we decided to go.
Okay, cool. So then you started to study. So you enjoyed from the beginning, or you say regretted? It's like this is hard and
No, not really. Like I didn't regret it, but I found that when I started studying, that many of my colleagues were already way more advanced than I was at the time, and I was impressed with that.
Mhm.
I remember, like at the first course of the university, like we had this program, like find like 8 queens on the chessboard and make sure they don't conflict with each other. And like my friends at the first course of the university were like coding this like a basic 2+3
Mhm.
program, and I was finding it challenging. It took me longer to embrace like software programming and such, and it took me longer to get to really start enjoying it.
Yeah, because they had more practice, right? I could imagine.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say so. Yeah, like they had more practice, and it took me longer.
This is same here actually. In my study, all my colleagues were more advanced. They had already sophisticated computers, and I actually had a very basic one, and I didn't even had I think Windows back then. So and the others one, they talk about compression algorithms. And what are you talking about, right? So I was just they were exactly the same here. So I was but then I couldn't know to catch up. But at the beginning, I thought there is no chance for me, to complete a study.
Yeah, I recall having feelings like this, and I didn't have computer at home at all at the time.
hmm
So.
I bought one. It was like 8080, but back then there were Pentiums around. I bought a very basic one with diskettes. So there was I could program a little bit Turbo Pascal, but this is not what he did at study. So this was the thing, right? So it was complete crazy. Interesting. So, but you liked that? So it was a challenge for you, and you kept learning, right? Or
Yeah. I just once I got into this, I started enjoying it. Though, to be honest, like in the university, like we had many other subjects which had really little to do with programming. So you had to spend time on just going through the course and so on. And as far as programming is concerned, once I got into this, it was enjoyable. Yeah.
so you started with C. What was your next language?
I think at the end of the university we were moving to C++. I never tried Pascal or something. I might have tried. I might have some basic exposure to that, but C++, that's what we were moving to. Or that would be it. And shortly after the university, I continued with C and C++, right, for a while, and then I had exchange program in England for a year, and there unexpectedly I had to do both COBOL and Rex. This is something to do with the year 2000 program.
Rex, you said REX.
Yeah, exactly, Rex, REXX and COBOL. Yeah. So there was a year 2000 program we were dealing with. So I didn't expect it. By the time I arrived, I was expecting really doing C++,
high tech.
High tech, exactly. And on the ground, it was totally different, and it was
disappointment.
It was a disappointment, but it was an interesting experience nonetheless. I thought it was even challenging at times. So it was an interesting one, all right.
One question regarding university, the last one. How many of your sophisticated friends, didn't or broke up or didn't manage to, complete the university, or everyone completed?
I think everyone completed, but I definitely know that a good number of my friends didn't continue as software engineer.
Okay.
That's that fact. Yeah.
That's interesting, right?
Yeah, that just they finished and then they thought they would do something else.
Okay, interesting. So, okay, you were then in UK. So, and you spent some time with COBOL. Was it something interesting in COBOL, or you said again waste of time? And
no, it wasn't. Yeah, I didn't see it as a waste of time or anything like that. It was just like it's the task that has to be done, And as far as my general attitude is, and even today, there are tasks sometimes which I'm not really particularly excited about it, but we just have to do it. And specifically, once I got there, I got into the team, and I was saying, look, you have to do Rex, COBOL. Well, it had to be done, and I've always been considering myself like a team member, so that was it,
Yeah,
I did enjoy it,
And COBOL was, was it interesting to learn or nice to learn if you knew already C, or was it what was
I think I had some recollections of COBOL-like structures from the university, again from the times at Mainframe, so I had some head start on that. And Rex was a totally new language for me, but again it was kind of similar to COBOL as far as I recall, at least now. And it wasn't particularly challenging, but we had to fix things and to do some year 2000 work, and And
cool.
What was enjoyable for me was the fact that something was done by the end of the day, and that was cool.
What happened after COBOL?
Well, after COBOL, I returned back to my original job in Belarus, right? And I continued I was writing software for terminals, right? For processing credit transactions, right? And then I eventually got to Ireland, and that was C++ continued, right? And then like pretty immediately we moved to Java, right? And from then on,
Why? How
Java.
it happens from C++ to Java? What was the reason actually?
So the software we were writing like in the originally was in C++. The reason for moving to Java was because I moved to a new company called Iona Technologies, right? And
Iona?
Iona Technologies in Dublin, right? And
They did CORBA, right?
oh yeah, so that's another interesting story. When I moved to Iona Technologies, I read the whole CORBA book, preparing to write only CORBA applications. But by the time I got in Iona, it was only Java for me, right?
Okay. And what they did then? So what you did? That's interesting because Iona was Orbix, right? And Iona, they were the big competitors back then with CORBA. Visogenic.
So what I did was an Artix project. That's really originally like mostly in C++, but there were like Java bridges in Artix for Java developers, and that's where I eventually moved to. Yeah.
So Iona was Orbix, and the Visogenics was Visibroker, I think, right? And interesting because I didn't knew that they are from Ireland. I thought it was a US company.
No, Iona Technologies is a real Irish success story. It was born in Ireland, right? And I'm really proud I managed to get it by the time of its existence. And it's a totally Irish company. It is.
It's perfect.
It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But and then it was acquired by Progress, and there was like a total Java from then on.
It was built on how it's called Guinness, right? On Guinness beer.
Technologies, maybe, yeah.
And what you did exactly? You built C++ to Java bridge.
So, like in Iona itself, technologies, Artix was a it's a C++ based project, right? But we were writing like we wanted Java developers to use it as well. So there was GNI work, and then slowly and surely we moved to Java. Like I don't recall all the precise details of how it happened, but eventually we started contributing to open source. We started getting involved into Apache Software Foundation, and it's back then where my interest in open source software was born, right? And Apache CXF project was created, and from then on, my interests were basically lying there.
So was the Apache CXF somehow based or founded by Iona?
It was founded by Dan Kalp and other software engineers from Iona Technologies, and the idea was just to move to the open source, right? We thought, the company thought that open source was the future, right? And originally Apache CXF was a SOAP implementation, like for web services. And then we started implementing JAX-RS.
Oh, what I understood is the Artix was C++. Then you created a bridge. Then you rewrote the Artix from C++ to Java, right?
No, I don't think it was completely rewriting to Java, right? So the Artix project itself was like the project I started in. So the Apache CXF can be considered like as evolution of this project in open source in a Java world. Right?
On Artix was like about SOAP, was about CORBA, RPC, what was it?
It was everything, I think, as far as I recall. It was like, there were like, I think, CORBA connectors. It was C++ web services, SOAP, right? It was really totally SOAP-specific project, right? There was no REST or anything like that in Artix.
Okay. This is interesting. I was not aware that Iona was, somehow involved in Apache. So it's interesting. So CXF.
There were the roots of Apache CXF project, right?
Yeah. And then JAX-RS started. So it was like, these parts of the CXF, because CXS was back then also about SOAP, I think, at the beginning, right?
Yeah, originally it was about SOAP, and then one of my colleagues started doing the JAX-RS work, and I just joined, and from then on, for me, it was only about that project. Really. The only thing I wanted to do was JAX-RS and CXF.
That's interesting. So it means you were paid by Iona and you work for Apache.
Yeah. We were like in reality, most of Apache Software Foundation, they're paid employees, but like many of us at the time were like really passionate about. So we would do work after work as well. So it wasn't only day work. For many of us.
No, sure. But it was sponsored by Iona.
It was sponsored for Iona Apache CXF project for a while.
What happens with Iona then?
It just the actual business of Iona just ran out of steam, I suppose. Like the CORBA, the Arctics didn't have many customers, and then it was acquired by Progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Progress itself acquired a company dealing with open source, and the whole Iona story ended there.
Okay.
But it's still a very successful Irish story.
Yeah, I'm just interested in CORBA right now, because what I think is CORBA was actually interesting. So not interesting, was very pragmatic, and it worked well. And it was said that CORBA is too bloated, but it was particular successful, right, in IoT area, where we cannot say it is bloated because it works on not mobile, in embedded devices even. And then CORBA, as you said, was less popular. And what happened? gRPC started, project like Google. But for me, it is a very similar to CORBA. It's like, picking, the maybe not the best ideas from CORBA and reapplying and selling as a Google technology, right?
Well, see, what I've been thinking about gRPC is like the whole, like it's an interesting story, because the reason REST has become so popular is because they wanted to avoid gRPC in the first place, right?
Exactly.
And now gRPC repopularizing RPC, and it's kind of the industry is going in circles. And we're going back to RPC, but in a really probably better formation, because in gRPC you can better handle backward and forward compatibility, because it's not only binary format, but also because you can apparently use JSON to represent payload, right? So it's all about managing things at scale. So if be it gRPC or REST, if clients or servers can change things without breaking anyone else, then it can work.
Yeah, but the argumentation is always interesting. CORBA is too bloated. It's like, okay, but if it's too bloated, why it works on IoT devices? Okay, it's not too bloated, but it's too complicated. It's okay, what is complicated? And what I saw, what's really bloated is maybe that you can find the you have to look up the naming service first, and if you have the naming service, you can look up the next service. But this could be hidden. You can write a small Java facet with one liner and hide the entire thing, and they will have one method. This was not a problem. And they say, okay, then SOAP. SOAP is nice because WSDL and ASCII. And then the WSDL was not used at all. So what people used in projects, string arrays, back and forth, because they couldn't manage the WSDL. And then, they didn't want to ask it how it's called, the binary encoding in SOAP. It's like, okay, if SOAP is about ASCII, why are you using binary encoding? And if you are into interfaces, why your WSDL is just string arrays? And the entire argumentation was crazy. And then, I say, okay, then we need JAX-RS is great. And because we don't need schema, and we can just, ensure everything in code, and now we go JSON schema. So, okay, if we have JSON schema, why XML schema was bad, right? So this was a back and forth.
But this is a natural evolution of the industry. It just like people would like to keep changing things. And,
exactly.
And this is just a natural evolution, and in fact, and then people will start reinventing things, okay, and in a better packages. For example, gRPC. If you're talking about gRPC in particular.
Yeah, I don't know whether it is better, because if you would take the older CORBA and wrap it with nicer Java builder, you would be done. and the entire result would be nicer experience gRPC. You know what I mean? Because we could, for instance, CORBA could become part of CXF. And then I would use, microproof REST client, which would behave like CORBA. So I could just inject, the microproof REST client, could talk via REST or CORBA. I would be done. I would just use the IOP protocol, but I wouldn't care, about CORBA at all. And this gRPC right now is not that far. So I have, use specific libraries. It's not as well integrated as it was, as it could be with CXF, for instance, what I mean. And reinventing, I think people forget or they want to change just to change, right? So there are many consultants like me, and they need some titles for the conferences, and they say, okay, then this is bad, now do it, and everyone listens and try not to change already working things and forget the problems from the past, maybe.
Well, nonetheless, during these evolutions, things are getting simplified, right?
Yeah.
For example, when I was working with XML, I was really reluctant to start working with JSON, but after working with JSON for a while, I'm finding how much simpler it is, how much simpler it is. It's really important to have, for things to be at scale, at web scale. Things have to be loosely coupled, and they have to be, the language of communication between the systems has to be loose, the system have to be able to ignore and recognize content,
Yeah.
All of this is
tolerant
critical.
reader, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So what happened after Iona? You switched companies, or what happened to you?
Well, I was let off after, when the Iona was finishing business.
When was it? Which year was it, roughly?
I honestly don't remember now. It was maybe 12 years back, or maybe more, because our CXF project, my implementation of JAX-RS project was not really of particular interest at the time.
Okay.
With Iona being wrapped up, and so pretty immediately I joined Red Hat, right? Pretty immediately.
Oh, okay. You never worked for Sun. I thought you worked for Sun Microsystems in one part. No?
No, I didn't. I spent about 6 months at Red Hat, right? And I was asked by my Apache CXF colleagues, do you want to join us again? And I didn't have a second of hesitation, really. I left Red Hat after 6 months, and I joined the company called Talent. It's a French-based company, and they were investing into CXF, right? So,
okay.
And from then on, I had happy 7 years working for them on Apache CXF.
Interesting. So you left Iona roughly 2011, then you spent a half year at Red Hat, and then you joined Talent. Yes. For another 7 years, 2018 roughly, something like this, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not sure I would be at Red Hat today if they didn't start changing to Spring. If they didn't decide to go with Spring strategically, I would maybe not be on Red Hat today here. But
who did it in Talent, you'd say?
Yeah. They decided to move to Spring, and for me it was, even though I was happy working for them, I was number one employee in Dublin for them,
okay.
And nonetheless, it was, I couldn't bear the prospect of working in Spring, and
okay.
And Apache CXF JAX-RS project as such being under the radar, and therefore I decided to move way back to Red Hat.
What is Talent about? I saw the Talent. I think you were the JAX-RS expert group member, right?
I was.
Yeah, this is why I know the Talent, because I always go to the spec and I saw your name, but in Talent. But I thought you worked for Sun for unknown reasons. Okay, and what is Talent? Is it like consulting company? What is it?
No, Talent is a French-based company. They were creating tools for processing data. So they had a really nice environment where you could get data, transform them, and you just design the whole transformation process and in UI. And but then they decided to diversify and invest into the ESB system, and that's how eventually they just decided to invest into CXF as one of the projects in the
Okay.
Apache Software Foundation. So we had this ASB division, which is still around in Talent, and we were investing in different projects.
Okay.
CXF in particular, they were interested in Camel along the way as well, and so on.
And okay, and then they switched to Spring, and you said you don't like to do Spring, right? So what I understood.
Yes, no.
Why not? I mean,
well, you see, my whole career was about creating, the last year, working for Talent was about creating Apache CXF JAX-RS project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a total competitor to Spring,
I didn't saw this. But Spring doesn't support JAX-RS?
No, they have their own RESTful services for Spring.
But they could. But is this technically possible to run JAX-RS on top of Spring, right? Or no?
Possibly possible, but Spring developers, they wouldn't typically do JAX-RS on Spring, as far as I know. They would do.
Okay, this was not aware of. I thought that this would be no problem for Spring. I never did a project in Spring. I just So this is why I'm asking, because what I know, they integrate well usually with Jakarta E and Java E. So I'm surprised that JAX-RS was.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if someone running JAX-RS on top of Spring, though. To be honest, I think Spring developers will do Spring REST kind of different applications, everything.
So you are not opposed to Spring, but the problem is that Spring does not accept JAX-RS. So you say, okay, without JAX-RS, not with me, right? This was the main problem.
At the time, I wasn't just for me, it was always about going my own way, as far as programming is concerned. I wasn't interested in joining Spring and embracing their vision of how to do software, right?
Okay.
And so I wasn't really particularly opposed to them as such at the time, but I just didn't want to go their way.
Cool. So you joined Red Hat, and I say, okay, then join another evil company. I'm just kidding, right? To do.
No,
I like Red Hat actually. This was just, what?
It's a very healthy company to work for. Absolutely. I found after trying different things, I finally found my home now. It's my last company I'm working for.
Don't say this. Who knows?
It's unless industry interferes, if you know what I mean. That's I wouldn't be planning to change anything.
So what is your task at Red Hat? So you started, you switched from Talent to Red Hat. What was?
I joined a project called Wildfire Swarm.
So
it was a project meaning to apply a microservices idea to the more kind of bigger Wildfly project, and that was eventually renamed to Thorntail, and Thorntail got merged with Quarkus.
This is good, but I never liked Thorntail nor Whitefly Swarm, and the reason being, because I always used to know the full whitefly, and for me it was small enough. So I couldn't understand why someone would like, to go the extra route with Thorntail and Swarm, because I say, for whitefly booted fast, it was, or still boots fast. It is, the memory consumption is small. It's like on the whitefly Swarm and Thorntail for me was just, like the 10% optimization, who I didn't care at all. So I never used that, and I don't understand it, right? This was my many people ask me about that. This is my honest answer. So why are doing this?
Well, by the time I came to the project, this was really far advanced project, Wildfire Swarm. So why it was created, I'm supposing they wanted to again follow the microservices idea to smaller items and so on. That's I suppose how it was created.
And then Quarkus came out. And the Red Hat, someone from Red Hat said, okay, before it came out, you have to look at this. It's like, I'm not interested. I already saw, Thorntail, and I already saw Swarm. It is maybe something that even though 5% better, I'm not interested. But then, I don't know, I say, okay, I just take a look. Maybe it is something different. And it is different because, it is like complete rethinking what could be done. And this is what I like. So because it's not like patching, it's like, okay, we do it right. And then I was hooked because I think I wrote one of the first articles in Germany or in German, article about Quarkus. I even created my first extension back then, just for fun, at the very beginning, Quarkus 1. And what I like is that for me, Whitefly deployed at runtime and Quarkus deploys at build time. So for me, it was this is the simplest idea, but it was so obvious, and I never saw this. This was this, right? So if I say, of course, it is like it has to be this way, but back then I never saw the opportunity to do it this way. So I was really amazed that someone built a solution which works like that.
It was a unique solution, absolutely. Building it, like creating things at build time.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard to understand for me initially when I joined how it could have worked,
Yeah.
And but the original team which co-created Quarkus really thought deeply about it. So.
Yeah, and the crazy part in Quarkus is it optimizes build time, but the build time is still fast. This is what I don't get, right? Is this you would assume if the optimization happens at build time, it is slow, but the build time optimization is still faster sometimes, or no, I would say always faster than deployment on Whitefly. This is the crazy part.
Well, they like we have industry experts in performance, right? Like we have guys who just know how to squeeze every milliseconds of everything. So and that just shows off,
Mm-hmm. Very good. So what you did then? So the Thorntail was really merged to Quarkus, or was
it wasn't merged? It was more like apparently like I wasn't involved in creating original Quarkus. Like Thorntail ideas were fed into the Quarkus.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe you copy and pasted something which worked, right? Not like
possibly. Yeah. And the team which worked for Thorntail followed, and initially I created my first extension for Quarkus for Apache Tika. So this is one of the I'm a commit to Apache Tika. It's an amazing project.
You never mentioned Tika right now. So how you started to work at Tika?
Well, it's Apache. It's a project in Tika. I was helping out to integrate Apache CXF with they have Apache Tika is about transforming data, right, from passing whatever format is available in the world and making it accessible in a simple API, and they have a server where someone can post a PDF or any other document, and the server is based on Apache CXF, right? And
okay.
And that's how I ended up working with the team, and it's really one of the most friendliest projects in Apache Software Foundation. I really recommend anyone who would like to try Apache Software Foundation and just try to do open source, contribute to the project. It's a very welcoming project, and it's really a good project to start open source development.
So what means if you would like to have some fun in software development, join Tika, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Like if you are looking for options to how to do open source, where to start from, that would be a good project to start.
So this is Apache Tika, tika.apache.com, Tika. And this is content analysis toolkit. So what is actually the killer use case for Tika? So let's say when I would like to use Tika, for what?
Well, you have, let's say you have dozens of different formats to process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have one option is to write format-specific library, and you would like to get text out of either of those files. So you have an option to write 10 different programs which will use PDF reader, then I don't know, open the format reader, open Word reader, Excel reader, and so on, and get that text you need. Or you can use Tika, which will pass it for you, right? And then you use Tika API to get that text, irrespective of what format was used to present the text.
So what Tika does, I can submit PDF and it will create like a metadata representation, like metadata model.
Yeah, it will give you headers representatives of that document, metadata, and then it will give you content, right, how that
And the
text-
content is also as Java object or
No, the content, I think it will be represented as like the actual content will be text, but API can get you access to bits of text. You could write a sax parser, for example, and so on. And,
so
but
what
you don't have to.
What I mean, so we have the JAX-RS endpoint, so I can go to Tika via REST, but I could also embed Tika, I guess, right, as a Java library. And then I would expect to have a POJO or something which represents the document, right? So
Yes.
Okay, cool. So it's
And
similar.
we have it in Apache in QuarkOS. It's a QuarkOS extension now, and it's a Quarkus Tika extension. It's also available.
So it is similar to Apache POI somehow, right? This is the
no, Apache POI. I think it's
Microsoft
more
Office.
advanced. Apache Tika can use Apache POI, right?
Okay.
But Apache POI is like a library dedicated to processing this document. So it's more advanced as far as possibilities are concerned about processing these types of documents.
Sure, but it's similar.
Tika is about streamlining the processing of documents, especially if you are streaming large sequence of large number of documents in different formats, and you would like to do search, for example, of the text. Combined with Apache Lucene, for example, that would be an interesting combination.
Or even machine learning, right? So
yes, that's exactly the case.
Yeah, very good. And you are a committer of Tika?
Yeah, I'm not an active committer in Tika, but
commit rights.
I'm a committer and a project management committee. But just I would like to say why I wrote the first extension in Quarkus. Was about Tika, because I really was grateful to the Tika team.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so this was like a gift, right, to Tika?
It wasn't a gift, it was my thank you. Really.
Perfect. So, okay, so the Thorntail was merged, or how to call it, refactor, reused, or whatever, to Quarkus. Not actually. Quarkus started, and you could look at Thorntail, what we could use from Thorntail, because it was complete rethinking. What was your first action in Quarkus except using Tika? Because Tika was like an exercise, right, for you. But what was your actual job in Quarkus?
Well, okay, so then I started even back when I was working for Apache CXF. I started during the last 3 years of this. JAX-RS was implemented, and my last few years in Apache CXF was mostly about working with security, right? So I got involved into OpenID Connect, the JSON Web Token security, and so when in Quarkus I started looking at security questions from users and security issues. So after working for a while, answering those questions, I became a Quarkus Security Coordinator. So,
okay.
So that's what my main job in Quarkus is now today. It's about security, right? And
okay.
It's about my particular professional interests are about OpenID Connect and the some Web Token security. But I work with my colleagues and we deal with all security-related issues.
So you're working for JSON Web Tokens, or JSON microprofile JSON Web Token, OpenID Connect. So this is your particular interest,
Microprofile is like a specification, but generally it's about OpenID Connect and JSON Web Token security. That would be my specific professional interest. Yeah.
So I also consider you as a JAX-RS expert, of course. So I have one question to you, because there is a Loom, there's Quarkus, and there's JAX-RS. And what I really like is, the standard JAX-RS programming model without mutiny, without reactive, just JAX-RS straight. And I never had any issues. And from the performance perspective, it behaves, for me, good enough. And Loom is on the horizon. So if I'm building, create, read, update, delete CRUD application from the enterprise with let's say, a relational database like Postgres as a backend, is there any reason to use the reactive thing? Or I could say I can just keep happily doing my simple Java programming request response with JAX-RS?
As far as I understand from our reactive programming experts, right, Loom is not really ready for widespread adoption, right?
Yeah.
So right now, using Uni would be the best option.
Sure.
Okay.
But if it comes,
and when it comes, Quarkus will be absolutely ready to get the best out of it. Like we're working right now on this. The team is looking into Loom deeply.
Yeah.
And also some options are already available. We have so-called run on virtual thread option.
But I don't even need that. So what I mean, what I always did, I wrote, simple JAX-RS code, right? Path, response back. From time to time, the suspended, but this was exception from the rule. So usually just, straight, plain Java code. If I'm happy with it, I can just go with it and wait for the Loom. There is no reason for me, if the performance is okay, to switch to reactive programming. This is what I wanted to ask you, right?
But Quarkus will be super fast in this case.
Yeah.
But optimizing event loop processing would be better for the performance at scale. Like if you're dealing with hundreds of users at a time is one thing. If you're dealing with thousands of requests at a time, Uni is the right way for this kind of...
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. But, most enterprise apps had maybe, 20 users at most, and they think they are web scale. I'm with you. If I'm building, and something on larger scale, it means I have Quarkus on a beefy machine and hundreds or thousands of users are hitting this thing. I'm with you. But what happens is the contrary, right? Because if you go to the cloud, you get multiple Quarkus maybe on 2 CPU machines. A smaller machines, for me, I will never get thousands of users on this thing. And if we're going serverless or Lambdas, even less, because there's even impossible to have multiple threads in one Lambda. This is always one-to-one, like EJBs back then, right?
Yeah, sure. Like Quarkus doesn't force users to use reactive style of programming. Like it's perfectly suitable for traditional imperative type of
exactly
programming. And if the demands don't require reactive type of programming, then it would be fine to use.
Very good, because what I get the most asked question. So what happens right now? Fresh Quarkus projects are starting with the reactive programming mutiny, because they are assuming they have to do this. I get it all over the place. This is why I ask you, and I say you don't have to do this. If you for your app just write simple Java code, it's like, no, we saw in the documentation, the reactive is the future. It's like, what is future is Loom. In one point of time, Quarkus will have to adapt to Loom. I mean, because it's part of the Java. I don't think they will implement their own stuff. And if they manage to implement Loom, it will just look like Java code. If you have reactive use cases, like a Kafka message comes in and I'm reacting to it, do something, this is reactive, then it's mutiny perfect. But for request response, it's just optimization for high scalability, as you said.
That's right, but not very ultimate high scalability. For moderate scalability demands, Uni is the way to go, right?
Yeah. Very good. So we covered a little bit JAX-RS and a little bit of Quarkus and a little bit of performance. So, just if you look at the security. An overview of Quarkus. So the extensions that are relevant one is called OpenID Connect or IDC extension for Quarkus. Like the other one is JSON Web Token for microprofile, where you can inject JSON Web Tokens, and then one is from the Electron security from the web server, right? So this is the relevant security possibilities you have, and of course we have the Java E security, which is based on the token security. Like I have the principal and role-based access control with the roles. So what interests me, when I would like to use the Electron security, the lower level, is there a case for that? Or should I focus on OIDC or JSON Web Token? Or what's your take on this?
Well, we use Electron libraries as helper libraries in Quarkus Security,
okay.
Right? So, but we fully recommend OpenID Connect for production applications.
Mm-hmm. And using them on password authentication, how I would implement this with Quarkus. Let's say I have no old-fashioned small application without external IDP. This is identity provider. So could I still do it with Quarkus?
Absolutely. We have several authentication mechanisms, like basic authentication.
So how I will implement, maybe to listeners, how I will implement, the basic authentication with Quarkus, which extension I will have to pick, this will be interesting.
Like it's a built-in authentication.
Okay.
So it's comes, for example, if you use JAX-RS endpoint, you don't have to use anything at any additional dependency. It comes as Vertex HTTP, and it's just built into Quarkus. So you just don't have to
Very
do anything.
good.
You just configure usernames, passwords,
Uh-huh.
either in database or in properties for testing, and it just works.
Yeah, this is great news. So because it means, there's a very simple thing, it works. If you would like to have OpenID Connect, I would say the out-of-the-box solution would be to use Keycloak as an IDP, right? So this fits well with Quarkus.
No, it's something. It's important to clarify that even though we recommend Keycloak as a OpenID Connect provider, Quarkus is not about specifically Keycloak, right?
Yeah.
Quarkus OpenID Connect extension is about supporting any OpenID Connect provider available around.
Yeah, but but you have to know to have account. You have to use Okta, or you will have to use GitHub or something external. But if I would like, to launch something on a machine, so Keycloak would be the easiest one, right? So if I would like have to my own provider, I would say Keycloak, or is this another mock IDP, or what you would use,
No, yeah, like if you're just starting up with OpenID Connect, we have dev service for Keycloak. So we're just in dev mode, we'll launch Keycloak for you, and you can literally use a live container of Keycloak to test your application. So you don't, you'll be able to sign into Keycloak from dev services single page application, and you'll be able to look at the tokens, and you'll be able to use those tokens to submit to Quarkus to test.
So what it means is that you can use Quarkus in dev mode and configure to configure automatically Keycloak as it should be in order to make OpenID Connect work for Quarkus, right?
Right, and so you're just in dev mode without any configuration. You start dev mode, and Quarkus is and Keycloak will already be listening for requests, right? It will be launched under the hood. So, and Keycloak itself is a standard OpenID Connect provider. So even if you don't plan to work with Keycloak production, you can use it to test, to issue tokens, and you could, and you could use those standard tokens to test your application.
So what it means is the OpenID Connect extension in dev mode brings Keycloak, subset of Keycloak with. Oh, this is actually good news. It's a good hack actually.
It's good, and it's very useful, and it can be used for testing as well. No, but we have WireMox for sure. But if you prefer to work against live provider, then it would be good.
This was what I always prefer, because you can mock out the entire environment, but you get strange errors also in production. No? You forget a port, you forget permission, and then you spend days or hours at least, or days to find a problem. What I try to do is Quarkus is just a runtime, and I don't try to mock out everything outside. I try to have real services to test as early as possible the entire thing, and then you will find the true problems. Otherwise, everything works in development, but it's really hard to make it work in integration. So stage.
Exactly.
Very good. What I would like to do is I would like to re-invite you back and talk about OpenID Connect and JSON Web Token specifically, just about that.
Yeah,
and this is where I try to avoid this topic today, because it will be way too long. For that, so where people can find you on the internet, or where you can, what is your Twitter handle? What is where you can find your work on Quarkus?
Well, at Twitter, my Twitter handle is sberezkin. I can SBERYOZKIN, right? And I'm always online, listen to Quarkus users asking questions. It will be on Zulip, or it will be Quarkus discussions. If you have questions about OpenID Connect or anything related to Quarkus security, myself and my colleagues are listening every day.
Oh, very good. Thank you. It was a really interesting story, and I learned that you never work for Sun. This will be interesting. So, thank you for listening, and see you next time.
Thanks, Adam. Cheers.